The North Queensland Cowboys brings on a solo episode to kick off the 2025 preseason. Super excited to get through all the teams first. Then we're going to go through, once the game opens, hopefully within the next week or so, everything else, basically. We'll get through all the teams, get a general sort of situational analysis on each squad, where they're at in terms of depth. You see here we've got 6 guys waiting in the wings, whether it's injury or whatever else coming into this season. We've got a full 17 there, most likely, and potential for some of these guys to drop in. And guys, I posted the content and private group video, just the previous one to this. So if you are interested in the private group, my email's in the description. Send that through. I'll give you the prices there and everything that's involved in it. Obviously, if you want to check out what is in the private group and my content for the year, go back and check out that video. Quick 10-minute little synopsis, or check out the podcast, guys. If you prefer to just listen via podcast, all of my videos, the audio is up on podcast to make it nice and easy for you as well. Both are beneficial for me, so thank you for being around. The Cowboys, super excited for my boys this year, because next year we lose Robson and I think it might go downhill. I'm very much hoping that a few of the youngsters that we do have coming through can come in and do a great job. And it's just a bit of a sad little period at the moment. I lose Tom Chester, who's one of my favorite guys. I lose Heilum Lukey, again, one of my favorite players in the game. Both to ACLs, and that's really, really tough to see and to hear. The good news is that we do receive John Bateman. He comes over and he's going to slot straight into that edge position, and it becomes very, very relevant for fantasy this year. We lose Val, which is tough. So we lose our goal kicker, which means Scott Drinkwater will likely take the goal kicking duties unless Tom Duffy ends up in the 17. He was the leading point scorer at 216 in last year's Queensland Cup. So that would be the goal kicking there. Very, very simply likely to be Drinkwater, and that would put a bunch of points onto his average. Do you start with him in round 1, or does he become an option later on down the track? That is the question for your fantasy lips. But just as an overall for my Cowboys, they're a very low scoring fantasy team. You take out Chad Townsend, you take out Val. Val was a much higher scorer than Townsend, sitting close to that 40 mark, and Val in the mid to high 40s there. And you look at this and there's not one guy above the 50 mark. You've got Cotter right on 50. You've got Robson and Drinkwater both on 49. You've got our halves 40s, 43.5 for Dearden, 39 for Clifford, similar mark for Townsend. And you're sitting in there with a team with a couple of 40s in there in the back row, with Lukey, with Nanai, with Bateman coming over as well. That it could be a situation where you've got Bateman coming over and potentially he becomes the best scorer in the team. Does the goal kicking improve Drinkwater that much? It may do, but how's the team going to go? There's lots of questions on this side, and I'm a little bit worried about the team in general. And to be honest with you, they're a team that I will struggle to have more than one player, I think, unless we do happen to get some cheapies in this side. But if we're looking at the mid-range to the upper tier guys, Bateman is a bit underpriced based on what we've seen from him in the past, and especially a couple of years ago at Tigers, but the years before that when he played for the Raiders and what he's done over in England as well. So he's someone of interest at coming in at a 44.6 average there, which guys equates to somewhere around that 600 mark. And what we're looking at with our price points, guys, if you're somewhere around the 50 average, it usually means you're about a 700k price point. But again, the prices don't matter too much as do we think these guys can average higher if everything stays the same. And again, once the game comes out, we'll have a greater knowledge on if there's any changes to scoring and what prices are going to be like. And if anyone gets a slight bump up in price or a decrease in their value, we'll find all that out. But just at the moment, that's my kind of worry with this side, is that they're a low scoring fantasy team in general. There's no guys over 50, which you see many other teams with multiple players above that 50 mark, and even some over the 60 mark, a la Cleary, Isaiah Yeo, guys like Dylan Edwards, come into the fray there. So plenty of low scoring players, unfortunately, which you could look at the team and go, well, they're a very high attacking team, but they also miss a lot of tackles, they make a lot of errors, and all this comes into their averages. They have a few losses, I think, as well, which probably brings the team down a little bit in terms of their quality. It's unlikely to improve it, to be honest with you there, unless some of the young guns come in and dominate. Unfortunately, missing Tamalolo early. Just had Liz Frank surgery done. And you see how there on the watch list, you've got guys like Jackson Purdue, Tom Duffy are fighting with Jake Clifford as the halves partner, to be the halves partner of Dearden, I should say. You've got in the backs, Semi Valame, Jackson Barlow there. You've got Braden Burns, you've got Vialea, you've got Laybutt and Robert Darby all fighting for that spot. And someone like Robert Darby, if he would manage to get that spot as a cheapie in this side on the wing, we have seen him have a couple of really good games in the past. And if it looks like he might be getting that spot, we will delve into him in a lot greater detail. For the rest of their outside backs, Laybutt comes into this season with a 32 average after doing his ACL, and it's probably a hard one to take straight up in a team that may struggle a little bit. We'll have to see how that goes. And they did go left a fair bit with Val there, and that may change a little bit just in terms of the structure and the way they play. It was Val Talangi on that left-hand side and add Drinkwater in as well. Not as good with the right to left passing. The left to right slinger is where his bread's buttered, but he's strong on that on both sides, obviously, with ball in hand, and they do have Dearden on that side. So it's still going to be a spot that they do go left a fair bit, and Laybutt was a right-sided centre. So something to note with him. Vialea we won't touch. Talangi we won't touch either. 37.5 is a bit high. If you do happen to see a Jackson Purdue or a Tom Duffy, then we will talk further down the track about those two because they become very, very interesting, are great young talents in the NRL. Or coming into the NRL, Jackson's played a few games, none of them at half. He's a half, guys. All he's played so far is in the outside backs. Semi Valame, unless he comes in with a really large discount and gets the starting spot, it's probably not one to jump on. He seems to not be able to stick in teams in their starting side, so that's probably the tough one with him. And then Jackson Barlow comes over from the Roosters with some decent scores under his belt here and there, but he also could easily fall into the 27.2 Viliami Valea category there as well. And Braden Burns, he picked up 5 tries in his 4 games, and I hope that he can feature for us at some point this year. So yeah, it's a team with a fair bit of depth, sort of centered more around the outside backs than the halves. And in their forwards, we do lack a little bit there, and we need someone to step up. Losing Finefuriaki, we lose Lukey now to injury, unfortunately, and then Chester as well, obviously in the outside backs. We're looking for a middle to stand up and play big minutes outside of Ruben Cotter. You've got a 60-minute Ruben Cotter, 62 minutes he played last year per. And then you've got guys like Griffin Neame with Tamalola out. You've got Sam McIntyre, expecting them to be 40 and 45 minutes respectively. McIntyre was at 43 last year. Griffin Neame at 39.8, I believe. So those guys are probably, I'm expecting them to continue to take the bulk of the minutes. Jordan McLean did extend for another year. Played 40 minutes a game last year. I don't expect it to be at 40 this year. That we do need some of the younger guys to step up. And I do think that McIntyre could be the guy to go to 50 minutes. But if you're looking at his average there, it's 31 in 45 minutes, which is pretty crap. But can he step up and improve his PPM and be the leader in this pack? Is that, very similar mold to Cotter. That's probably the only problem, I'd say, is that they can be very similar in terms of being a smaller body. But they do need someone to step up with the minutes in the middle and be the leader of that pack as a prop. And is McIntyre going to be that guy? Is Griffin Neame finally going to step up? I can't see it being Hess, and I can't see it being Edwards. So where's the young prop coming through? We had Thomas McKaylee last year as well. I just think it's very, very difficult to see the Cowboys coming out and playing amazing footy with some of these issues that they have, I think, in the forward pack without a clear leader. They have Robson, they have Cotter, and that has helped them tremendously. To have Dearden there is great, but to not have a leader in that 7 position, to be fairly light in the outside backs now without Val. Having Murray obviously as a gun winger, a Queensland winger at that. But you're looking at a lot of inexperience in the three other slots in the outside backs, relying heavily on Scott Drinkwater, on Dearden, on Robson, on Cotter, and obviously on Nanai and Bateman. But in terms of leadership, probably are going to need that to come from, and in the second row forward position from Bateman in that one. So we'll have to see how that one goes on that front. So as you can see, there's you've got Ruben Cotter there, who had a really good season, averaging 50 last year. He was priced 5 points below that, and that's why we started with him. He was awesome, did a great job for us for the entirety of the year, or at least at minimum all the way through until Origin. Doesn't have the 60-point games in him on a regular basis. He definitely has the odd 60 game, but followed by a low one. So the consistency isn't there for him, and I'll get into him and the mid position in greater detail once we get closer to season open. And we can make some decisions around that mid position from there. But the team in general, they've lost a few players. They've got very average buys to begin the season. So they have a buy in round 7, and they have a buy in 12, which is the first major buy. So 12, 15, and 18 are those major buys. And so they've got 2 in 6 weeks. You can't get through with them all the way to Origin. Obviously, number 7, having a buy in round 7, it shouldn't be too difficult, but we know that once the season gets started, we do have the odd cheapie that hasn't worked out, it's not playing. We have the odd concussion, the odd 2-week injury. So if you have 1 or 2 Cowboys, it can make it tough at that type of at that point in time. But for the most part, it's an average draw, just based on the buys straight up. You can't just lob 1 or 2 in your team, hold them all the way to Origin, and then go from there. They are a team, though, that from round 13 in that first minor buy, that they become much more relevant. You get them from round 13 all the way through until the final week where they have a bye in round 27. So it's a lot of time that you will get 1 of these or 2 of these or 3 of these players. You get them from round 13 all the way through the big bye period, which is so important. And that's where someone like a Drinkwater, someone like a Drinkwater who's unlikely to be in Origin could be really good. Holding a Bateman, if you were to start with Bateman, you probably want to hold him for the entirety of the season. To be honest with you, he's not going to play Origin, so you'd have him in a really good spot from there. If you don't buy him at the start, I think you can buy in 13. Wait and see how things go with him in the side, and then go from there. And just at round 7, and then the first major buy, which is a little bit frustrating, but they're really good after that first major buy. The Cowboys, probably less. I just wanted to do it myself, obviously being a fan of them, but just with the lack of relevance, I should say, in the side for the most part at the beginning of the season, unless we do see some debutants. If we manage to see a Purdue or a Duffy at 7, then they'll be straight in our side. Some people might go with Bateman. Some people might go with Drinkwater with the goal kicking. We may get a cheap center as well that I haven't named in that in the couple of centers. We may do get Robert Derby as well. If that was the case, then Cowboys do begin with a lot of relevance for a team that can be fairly attacking. Will they change the way they play without Val, without Townsend, which we saw at the back end of last year for a bunch of games there? Will they be more attacking? Will they have a better defensive mindset? We'll know very quickly. I can always tell in the first 2 weeks for the Cowboys how they're going to play across the season. So it will be very, very interesting. Obviously, I haven't completely sent out how everything works for the private group, but check that link. Check out that video the last video there. Send me a message. I've had a few people reach out already asking to join, so I'll get on to them. And yeah, that's the Cowboys to start. I will have a few different people on with me to go through the teams that they follow. Scoop will be back on once we get a bit more time. I've just come back from Brisbane, did a long drive from that one down toward closer to Sydney. So I'm back, good to go for videos now for the next, every day until just every day. You're gonna see my head or hear my voice on your phones there all the way through until the end of the season. So thanks so much for being here, guys, early on. You're absolute legends, and we'll catch you in the next video, in the next team.